Hello Tech World, this is Tech Thoughts. In this video, I'll be showing you how to configure your Synology NAS device to do a cloud backup to Microsoft Azure. As always, if you prefer written documentation, the corresponding article for this topic can be found on the techthoughts.info blog, which is linked in the description below. Let's go ahead and get started. So this actually turns out to be incredibly easy to set up and configure. This isn't going to be a long video and you're going to be done in no time. So the first thing you'll need to do is set up an Azure subscription. If you're not sure how to set up an Azure account, you can get the link for that inside of my blog and go ahead and get started with that. But once you've got that set up and configured, you should be looking at the Azure portal, which looks a lot like what you're seeing on my screen right here. And if you're new to Azure, you're not going to have any resource groups or anything configured. It'll look pretty similar to this. So let's go ahead and start with new. We're going to be creating a storage account, which is going to be holding all of the data backup for our Synology device. So we'll click on new and come down here to storage. Go ahead and create a storage account. And it's going to ask you for some information to get that set up and configured, the first being a name. I'll go ahead and call it Tech Thoughts Demo. Make sure you're selecting Resource Manager, which is the newer version. Don't select Classic. You're pretty much going to be okay with blob storage or storage v2, but Microsoft is recommending storage v2 for all the bells and whistles right now. However, if you're concerned, you can do some research and figure out which one is more appropriate, blob storage or storage v2. I'm going to go ahead and click v2 now. Since we're going to be using this primarily for backups, there's no reason to select premium performance. We'll leave that at standard. And because these files don't need to be replicated again, unless that's something that you need to be able to do is replicate even more than this backup, then locally redundant storage for these backup files is sufficient. We are not going to be accessing these files in a performance related way, so we're going to be selecting the access tier to cool storage. I recommend that you select Enable Secure Transfers for the best security. Go ahead and select your appropriate subscription. And then if you haven't created a resource group previously in Azure, you can go ahead and create one now. I will call mine Tech Thoughts Demo Storage 2. And then select the appropriate geographic location for your region to ensure that you have the shortest possible connection between your Synology device and an Azure data center. If you're going to be accessing these backup files for some reason other than the Synology device, which isn't likely because Synology kind of packs them up in its own format, then there's no reason to create a virtual network around this. If you're just going to be using it for the Synology backup, leave that as disabled. Go ahead and click Pin to Dashboard to make it nice and easy to access from your Azure portal. And with all this configured, you can go ahead and click Create and get that storage account deploying. All right, so with that deployment completed, our storage account is now accessible, and you should be seeing the overview screen if you click on it, similar to something like this. Now, this looks complicated and there's a lot going on, but for the purposes of Synology Backup, there's only two pieces of information that we care about when it comes to all these settings, and that's the access keys and the blob service containers. We'll start by configuring a blob service container by on the left clicking Containers, and then we will click Add a Container. This will prompt us for a name. I will call mine Synology Azure Backup. Go ahead and leave this private as that is appropriate for the purposes of our backups and click OK. This will create our container, and this is where the actual files from our Synology backup will actually live. All we have left is to get the access keys, so go ahead and click on Access Keys on the left and click the copy button to load that key into your clipboard, and this completes the Azure configuration. Like I said, very straightforward and simple. So now we'll hop over to the Destination Manager and set up our backup on our Synology unit. We'll drop down into the Hyper Backup, and once that's up, we will, on the left, create a new data backup task. We will select Azure as our destination location. And since I have the access key loaded, I'm going to go ahead and populate that and paste that right here. And then it also wants to know the storage account name, which we configured previously. Mine was Tech Thoughts Demo, and I actually ended up changing it to Tech Thoughts Demo 1. Now, with these two pieces of information, what you'll notice is that when you click the drop down for the container name, it will utilize the storage account name and the access key to pre-populate the container names. And there you can see my Tech Thoughts Synology Azure Backup, which I just created a moment ago. This lets you know that everything is working right away. So if you don't see something drop down here, then something is misconfigured and you need to do some troubleshooting. I'll go ahead and create a directory, Azure Synology Backup. And we'll go ahead and click Next. Okay, so if you've used the Hyper Backup utility for Synology before, what you'll do here is go ahead and select those folders which you're wishing to be included in the backup and go ahead and click Next. On this screen, you'll configure all of your backup settings. This will include things like how often the backup will occur and on what days, and all of this is entirely up to you. The only thing we really need to go ahead and make sure is selected here is the Enable Transfer Encryption, because when we set up the storage account in Azure, we set it to use encryption. We need to make sure that Synology is also doing that. Once you've got this set up to your desired specifications, go ahead and click Next and Apply. Once that backup task has been completed, the Hyper Backup will go ahead and prompt you if you want to back up now. I'm going to go ahead and click Yes to make sure that everything is working as intended. And then I'll go ahead and click off our first backup to Microsoft Azure. As that backup begins processing, I can hop back over to my Azure account, click on my storage container and access my containers here and my Synology Azure Backup. And we can see here that my Azure Synology Backup job has already begun processing and is throwing up all those Synology files needed for the backup with it almost complete. This was just a test folder, so it didn't have a lot of data, and you can see that's now successful. So cloud is a great way to enhance your backup posture for your Synology device. It's great to do local backups, but natural disaster events such as fires or tornadoes or earthquakes can bring both local backups and your Synology unit down. Having this cloud capability really ensures that data that you can't live without is secured in multiple geographic locations and is a great benefit that's capable with your Synology device. If you have additional questions and would like to see some more specifics or some cost breakdowns on what this would entail, please visit the techthoughts.info blog. Again, that's linked in the description below this video. Thanks for watching. If this video helps you out, go ahead and click that like button and subscribe for more Tech Thoughts videos.